Hey guys, this is me coming to you once again outside the rabbit hole, all right? I learned down there in the rabbit hole that life is not always, events in life are not always really rational or explainable. But anyway, uh, I'm happy to say that uh, things are looking a little bit better. I woke up this morning really. Um, by the way, this is a continuation of the clips that um, I've been putting together since my dispute, interaction, intimidation, incarceration, that assassination of my character that was put upon me by my so-called um, what do you call them? When the designated doctor, what do you call it? The prefer, or what's the word? But the one who is in charge of, taking care of your primary physician, whose name is Dr. Thamar, Thamar. I don't want to go all the way back, but I've got two other videos, about 20 minutes long, detailing the beginning of this. But the crux, the bottom line, just to set the tone, was the fact that after 2 years or 3 years after he was thrust upon me through HAP and all that kind of stuff, I've always been dissatisfied with how he treated me professionally in his treating me, the things that he prescribed, whether or not I felt he was even listening, and all of those things. His reluctance and absolute refusal to even consult with other doctors that I've seen, mainly my cardiologist. In this rant that he put upon me yesterday morning as he realized that he was losing control, he pulled out a card that I never heard in my life. After realizing and being in the hospital, he put out a rage, and just to prove his point, he put me in there this past Friday to prove to me I'm going to have everybody that's ever treated you could march in and talk to you. So right away, I winked at the Lord and said, on Medicare and Medicaid, I'm getting ready at 81 with all these pains and all these things I've been fussing with him about, getting to be put on Front Street. I went to the Lord and went on with it. And that Friday at 12:15, he ranted and raved at my daughter, told my daughter that my objective was to get prescription drugs, because I told him that I was afraid to continue the 2 years on the, I call it MAPAP. He would give me a prescription. I guess psychologically he was supposed to placate me. And I would get the prescription, these big jugs of acetaminophen. I would even tell him, I said, I'm so terrified of just taking this so much. I said, I've already had years ago warning that even back then, acetaminophen was messing with my liver. He never heard it, or he wouldn't hear it. And those are the things I talked to all of the folk that came in during these 5 days at Oakwood, Beaumont, that came in pontificating over me. And the bottom line of this deal, I like I said, all the rest is covered in the other tapes, so I don't want to rehash all that word for word. But the bottom line is this. At the end of all those confrontations in the hospital, which he projected, you would have thought we was in the middle of the ghetto. Well, I wasn't doing no screaming and hollering. Now, I don't mean that kind of thing, but he was. They could hear him all up and down the hall. He had people on the phone down in the different offices changing records. He had nurses and everyone involved. He involved everybody that he could involve in his dispute with me over my care. It insulted him to the highest degree. And they marched in, baby. They marched in. Hey. They told me some things I needed to know. They resolved some issues I was concerned about. I told Dr. Thamer, you never satisfied me in 219. I woke up in the morning in a pool of blood, spent 12 days and 5 transfusions. You never investigated that. You never investigated when this happened. You never investigated when that happened. You don't know from one thing to the other what one other doctor. And before I met you, anything that was looked at and dissatisfied was looked upon was because of Dr. Elder, my cardiologist. When I told him about complaints that weren't being addressed by you, he didn't go railing with you. He prescribed what he thought was things that I should do and take. On several occasions, he said, I don't think you need to take this. And when I came back to Thamer, he would be insulted. And the people that Elder would refer me to, he would get and check their names out and pretend he couldn't find them. I had an endocrinologist. He claimed he couldn't find her name, since she was right in the same building, next door office to Dr. Elder, but he clicked and claimed he couldn't find her name. All of these things went on with him during our so-called relationship. And I've told my daughter the whole time I've got exposed to Dr. Thamer that there was something about him that just gave me the chills. In the fact that I could not get over the fact the man just didn't feel like he was listening. He felt like he was listening and looking at you like he listening, but he wasn't hearing anything. And what tipped it this Friday morning was the pain that I was in and the fact he asked me to come there. I didn't know his mind was set up to thinking that I had ulterior motives concerning telling him that the MAPAP arthritis stuff wasn't working. I said, and I would even break it down. I said, Dr. Thamer, it has been my practice all the many 40, 45, even 50 years or more that I've had these spasms, that I've had this spine pain, that I have not been able to go to either my doctor or the emergency, and they would find some kind of way to either give me an intravenous or a shot in the butt to knock it down at least 2 or 10. I told him, hell, at 81, I get up in the morning at a 10. Come on. I'm walking through Walmart shopping on a 10. Come on. See, that's what happened to you even outside the rabbit hole, you see. But even when I was down in the rabbit hole, I didn't let it get to me like that, because I've experienced it from way back in some form or another. I experienced it when I had, before my first primary physician, which was Dr. David McSwain, God rest his soul, for over 40 years. And if he were alive, he'd come and make a house call for me even today. So I come from a different era, number one. That was while I was in the rabbit hole. There was there's a lot more humanity in the sure enough rabbit hole, you see. And it's so funny that I'm using the analogy of the rabbit hole because for 20 years I had or more. I'm still on Pal Talk now. I started loving and remembering the saying, and only just a couple of weeks ago I investigated the origin of the saying. There ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun. And it was more than 15 or 20 years ago. Testify to me, Clear Fruit. Testify about this on Facebook. All of those you know that came to me while I was on Pal Talk. Get on Facebook and let them know whether or not I'm telling the truth. I've been saying ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun for over 35 years. But I never broke it down. God never broke it down to me what it meant while I was in the rabbit hole. You see, it was while I was in the rabbit hole that I considered revenge. It was while I was in the rabbit hole. The circumstances of my mother's death drove me to say, I don't give a damn if I don't live another day. Well, I was in the rabbit hole. You see. But he had already cautioned me, but he didn't tell me that it would be called a rabbit hole, but he said at the very height of my desperation, the day that he shone a light through me at the height of my darkness. Now, at the very beginning, 20 years ago, after he let me go through and consider fighting with the latch on the 24th floor window, which he wouldn't let it work. Let me tell you something, in the rabbit hole, it's a bitch. But even in the rabbit hole, he's there. And he wants to save us all. You see? But then there will come a time, and at a certain stage, and at 81, I guess he said, well, I better kick in overdrive and let her show the world that I've once again made my point. You see, she stood and heard her mama say that she lived on his truth. She stood and heard herself after many considerations, dealing with what she was dealing with, trying to deal with what she was dealing with, serving in the ministry. In the rabbit hole, against even the dysfunction of the matriarch. In the rabbit hole, even to the dysfunction of the matriarch of the family. In the rabbit hole. The breakdown of any family in the rabbit hole. But see, God has a plan. He is not only is he Alpha and Omega, not only is he the root and the offspring, he sees yours. He sees your root before your seed is even planted. You see? He know who he gonna touch to help you psychologically, physically, any kind of way, in any kind of situation that's too stressful for you to handle alone, or so to speak, alone. That's in or out the rabbit hole, you see. And then when he has accepted the fact that at the height of your trauma, you hear him say, if you hold my hand, if you don't give in to the wrong voice, if you see the light that I'm shining in front of you in this dark spot that you're in, if you don't look back except to recite history, and ain't no harm in reciting history. You run the history. Don't let the history run you. If you can dedicate your life to my timetable, if you can let me determine how long I'm going to let you stay down here in the rabbit hole, you see, I'll bring you out more than a conqueror. In the rabbit hole was when you thought all was lost because the car donation program wouldn't support the church. It was in the rabbit hole that confused folk changed records. You see? And to this day, there is no even ink over there in the corporate papers that I ever even existed. But I got the records. I was the comptroller, vice president, secretary, kept immaculate records, which I always kept in my home. I got the very date that the records were changed. Okay, that's for a different story. But that's what happened in the rabbit hole. In the rabbit hole, I had an opportunity to fight all that. In the rabbit hole, I got an opportunity to fight all what I felt was disloyalty to me. But that was in the rabbit hole. And this proves a point. You can't tell God is the wonder I'm sitting up here with my wig on backwards, looking kind of cute, because I'm out the rabbit hole. He will refresh you, allow you to shake off and comb out all the fur and the ugly stuff, all the hurt, all the anger, all the envy, all the deceit. He will rake all that stuff from your fur, from your winter, in the rabbit hole. And when he is satisfied that you are ready, when he is satisfied, he will allow you to burn